started. All right, so we will be discussing the Love Jones cohort, Single and Living Alone in the Black Middle Class by Dr. Kris Marsh. So I just want to first start with saying welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for just taking the time out and wanting to come on and discuss your book with us on today. So we're just very excited to have you.
Well, thank you. I am super excited to be here today. I really, really am.
Great, great, great. All right, so I already told them if they have questions, just raise their hand or whatever they want to do. And I'll start off, get this book discussion started. I just want to start off with saying what made you decide to bridge actually the two concepts of singlehood and Black middle class, because I know you said it in your book that it was already had a lot of research was done with the singlehood and then with the Black middle class. So what made you decide to bridge the concept?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Again, happy birthday to you. So happy that I get to celebrate a portion of your birthday with you. So I am honored and it is a joy. So one of the things that was really important to me as an academic, I decided early on in my academic career that I was not going to pimp the poor to make my academic career. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of people that don't look like me and you and everybody else on this call that have made their entire careers talk about poor Black Americans. And I was like, I'm not going to be that scholar. I don't want to be that kind of scholar. So what I really want to do is I want to look at people who have quote unquote done everything right. They went to college, they got the big degrees, they got the big houses, they got the big salaries. But at the end of the day, their outcomes don't look like other racial and ethnic groups, to clearly show that structural racism and anti-Black racism still exists. Because I used to train officers, and please don't ask me much about that because I'm trying to keep my blood pressure down today. But it's always so interesting. I know what the arguments are going to be with white officers, but it's always baffling when Black officers argue me down that structural racism does not exist. And so I want to look at people who did everything right. And if anybody's even a Bible scholar, the Bible talks about how the poor will be with us for all time. So I'm not taking anything away from the poor, but I want to look at people who did everything right and see what their outcomes look like. But also being trained as a demographer, one of the things I noticed is that marriage rates were changing for all racial and ethnic groups, but was much more pronounced for Black Americans. And so when people were talking about Black middle class, there was a subtle kind of argument that they were making that it was just about people that were married with 2.5 kids and a Black picket fence. If we think of like the quintessential Black middle class or upper Black middle class family on TV, we often default to the Huxtables. But Love Jones is where we start to see this demographic shift to young Black professionals who aren't married, don't have any children. And so hence, that's how I tied the two together. And that's also the way in which I came up with the term, the Love Jones cohort, because I wanted to pay homage to Love Jones, who had this new demographic shift, but then I also wanted to use a traditional demographic term, which is cohort. So that's how I came up with the title as well. So I think it's important to have this conversation so we don't keep thinking that you have to be married with kids and so on and so forth to be considered middle class. So I'm pushing back against that pretty hard, saying we really have to take into consideration people that are solid, single and living alone, and how they are part of the Black middle class.
Oh, thank you for that. Did anyone else have a question? Just pop on in, ask anything, comment.
I'll just jump in. Thank you so much, Kris, for joining us today. I'm a Sala, so thank you so much. And I identify with that so much because just because I'm single, Black, living alone, doesn't mean, you know what baffles me is when I meet people and they're like, you don't have any kids? You're how old? What's wrong with you? That's the first thing that I get. Like, what? Nothing is wrong with me. Why does something have to be wrong with me? Because I'm Black, living alone. I make a middle class income, and I have kids, and I'm not married. So why do people like? So in your findings, I know that you talk to people, like more than 50 people, and only the cohort that you identify. Like, what was your findings in that? Because I find that baffling when people ask me, I can't believe it. They're like, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong me.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you are right down my street. I appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you. Let me tell you. There's a couple things that I hope happen from the book. And I even say this in the afterword. I hope after you read this book, and then the book is for everybody. We'll come back to that in a second. But I hope after you read this book, you're just as likely to ask somebody, why are you single? As you are to ask somebody, why are you married? Understand, we always ask single folks, but we don't ask married folks. If we continue to do that, we privilege marriage. Now, let me put a caveat right here, because just so that you know, I get hate mail almost on a daily basis talking about how I'm bad for Black America because I'm not promoting marriages. And if you think I'm going to sit out here to be promoting marriages and partnerships for the sake of promoting marriages and partnerships, then call me bad for Black America, because I'm not going to support relationships that can be toxic, oppressive, abusive, and unfulfilling simply because people don't want to hold the title of single. I'm trying to destigmatize singlehood. I want you to stand confidently in your singleness. If then it leads to marriage and so on and so forth, then so be it. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just say that we need to promote marriages for the sake of marriages. I will not, and I cannot do that kind of work. Now, talking to the cohort talked about how people are constantly asking them that question. And one of the things I try to do is, based on what the cohort said, I then try to make sense of what they were saying. And so one of the things that I came up with, and I argue this kind of throughout the book, is that we have to understand that singlehood is not an individual conversation. It's not merely an individual conversation. If we leave singlehood at the individual level, you will have a lot of Black folks, in particular Black women, because Black women dominate the category, saying, woe is me, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get married? Why can't I have any children? But I'm saying we've got to overlay a structural argument on top of singlehood. There's a rise in the singlehood literature because a lot of Black white women are choosing to be single. So since they're choosing to be single, there's a whole bunch of scholarship now. It's a new category, it's a new idea. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute. Black women have been doing this for years. You try to take rock and roll, you try to take jazz and blues, rhythm and blues. What you're not going to do is take singlehood and try to act like these white women are doing this whole new idea. Black women have been doing it, whether or not it's by choice or by force. Black women haven't been doing it for years. But the structural part of it is to suggest that structural forces constrain our personal choices. If I were going to say that differently, I would say racism or anti-Black racism constrains our personal choices. If I were to give you an example, if I, Kris Marsh, want to marry another heterosexual man with a PhD, my dating pool is constrained. If I want to marry a heterosexual man with a PhD who owns his own home, my dating pool is constrained. If I want to marry another Black man with a PhD who owns his own home and makes $150,000 US, my dating pool is constrained. If I want to marry a Black man who owns his own home, making $150,000, has a PhD, has multiple rental properties, and has estate planning, my dating pool is constrained. Whether or not I, Kris Marsh, I'm actively choosing to be single now, we have to have the structural conversation to talk about how my dating choices are constrained or depressed because of racism that exists. Now, when you talk about professional Black women, professional degrees and comparable Black men, they're just not there. And if they are there, they could be gay, they could want to already married, they could be wanting to date people that are light, bright, and damn near white. So we have to have that kind of conversation. So I'm trying to move it away from a structural where Black women in particular feel like there's some kind of like deficit model versus understanding how structure kind of impedes their choices. And so that's so the respondents have constantly talked about it. People always ask them about them being single. And my retort back to them is like, I say it in the book, I'm like, when someone asks you a question that's racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, or single-phobic, the best thing you can do is say, well, what do you mean by that? And you keep pushing the person to say what they actually mean. So all my other accomplishments don't matter. But as long as I don't have an MRS degree, that's all that matters to you. So when you say, well, what do you mean by that? They're like, well, you're so pretty, or you're so nice, or you have so many degrees. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, so one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to eventually find out the error in their ways. They're like, oh, never mind. Or they're like, you know what I mean. I'm like, no, I kind of don't know what you mean. Can you please explain it? Until they understand the errors in their way. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I hope I kind of started to get at your question. Okay. Yes.
I like that. What do you mean? Oh my God, that's my
it can be real benign. Like, well, what do you mean by that? It's how you say it. Like, what you mean by that? Like, this real benign.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And keep pushing. But no, what do you mean by that? Until they Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
Yeah, I like that. It push them against the wall and they're gonna fold. They're gonna fold because they're so used to us pushing back. And with that, they have to explain themselves. And most of the time they don't even have a reason.
Right. But that's kind of the point. Why do we as single people always have to explain ourselves and get our talking points together before we go to a place? Because you know what's going to happen when they're going to ask you why you single. You know what? We both gonna go home thinking about this. I ain't gonna be the only one going home thinking about this. I'm gonna keep pushing you until you be like, now you're gonna go home thinking about it too. But how many spaces have we been in? We got to get our narrative straight. Right? We got to get like, what's my narrative going to be? You're like, oh, I'm just a workaholic, or, it just hasn't happened for me yet. Now, miss me on that entire conversation, which is to the point that I was making earlier, where I think the book really is for everybody, whether or not you're single or not, whether or not you're Black middle class or not, whether or not you're in America or not, because the singlehood conversation it is universal. But it is more pronounced in Black America. I was in the airport and there was this Black guy I was talking to, and I was saying, I be out here slanging my book. So I was trying to get him to buy the book. He's like, well, I'm married. I don't need it. And I was like, with an attitude like that, you ain't gonna be married very long. But here's the point. Even if you're married, you have been single at some point in time. We have all held that title at some point in time. So if you think you all hoity-toity because you're married now, at least read the book so you know how to navigate your single friends. But I would argue if you read the book, it makes you stand very confidently in your singleness, which is going to help your marriage. But if you don't, oh my God, somebody's calling me, my phone all messed up. Hold on, y'all, hold on. I was on a groove too, darn it. Okay, I'm back. Let me put my thing on disturb. Please excuse me, y'all. My bad. I don't want to put it on disturb in the middle of somebody calling me, gonna be like, did she just kind of like send me the voicemail? I did. Anyways, so I think it's really important that everybody has a conversation about singlehood. And I got white people reading the book like, oh, Dr. Marsh, thank you so much. I learned so much about singlehood, period. And so one of the things I talk about in the books, I talk about like a living trust and a will, especially if you're single and living alone. You need to get one of those. Don't shake your head. Don't just look straight ahead. If you don't have one, just keep looking straight ahead. But I made the mistake of asking somebody, like I went to a book talk and I asked how many people have a living trust or will. How many have them? Only a couple hands went up. And I was like, I hope at the end of the day, I can also educate people. It's like Black folks need a living trust and will, especially if you're single. I don't care how little you have or how much you have. Make sure you know exactly where your stuff is going to go if something happens to you. And so there was an older white woman who was 48 years old, read my book, and she was like, Dr. Marsh, I didn't know what a living trust was until I read your book. So thank you for teaching me new things. So everybody can read the book. It just doesn't have to be for Black folks. But please understand that I am also unapologetically Black, and so much unapologetic. There's two things I am unapologetic about: being Black and being a Christian. Those aren't open for conversation, period. So in the book, I say that this is a politics of citation. I was like, I'm citing Black people that talk about Black families. I ain't gonna be citing a whole bunch of white scholars that talk about Black families. I don't have a problem in the world saying it. I said it. What is it? I said what I said. I ain't playing with y'all.
Yes, I love it. I wanted to talk about the sitcoms. Oh my God, when I first saw the sitcoms in the book, I loved all those shows, but I didn't never find the comparison of why I love them. I mean, all of them, Being Mary, Being Mary Jane, and Living Single. I loved all those shows. Seriously. And of course, we all love the movie, of course. So
yeah. Speaking of the sitcoms, what I really like is that, which I didn't know, Living Single came first, and then they made Friends, which lasted, I don't know how many episodes and seasons, when Living Singles didn't. That happened with a lot of, I would say, great Black shows. They don't last as long as the white shows. They come out with the same idea, same concept, and they last, I don't know how many seasons. Like, right, let's have a Black show like that. Speaking of, what's the name of it? New York Undercover. Now, that's
or Friends. Or Friends.
But now, Law and Order. You know what I'm saying? It's still going on. And they broke franchises, but Friends. That's what I said. Living Single. Because I love Living Single. It was just all, them doing their thing, everybody having great jobs. Even those who didn't have great jobs, they was in between. I still like that because they welcomed everybody.
Yeah. And it's funny because so I decided to call the book The Love Jones Cohort, partly because Love Jones is where we really start to see that demographic shift. And the 25th anniversary of Love Jones was last year. So I really wanted the book to come out the 25th anniversary of Love Jones. But it's out. I'm okay with the 26th year. I'm cool with it. It's out. We have a conversation about it. So I don't even care. But the point is that Love Jones is like, they're in some ways, they're the pioneers where you started to see this demographic shift. So I'm also paying respect and homage to these Black women that are pioneers, this whole, that are undergirding the singlehood movement. So I also want to pay kind of homage and respect to the Love Jones, to movie Love Jones, that started to see this demographic shift. Because I could have called it the Insecure Cohort, or like Insecure Band. I could call it the Mary Janes of the world or something, because Love Jones is not the only, but it really kind of is the first. And to your point, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that little golden nugget about Friends, I put in a footnote, I think.
You did. I saw that.
Right. Okay. So let me tell you about my footnotes. The audiobook is coming out too, and I'm literally in arguments with the audio producer right now. So I was like, my footnotes are really important to me. So how is the narrator going to work through the footnotes? So here's one of the things that my editor said, because I have an editor, and I'm glad to say that, because some people, like, I used to always think people were just these beautiful writers. I was like, I got 3 different editors for 3 different ways in which I can write. And people don't talk about how they have editors. I am very transparent. I got 3. I got one to cry with. Nope, I cry with all 3 of them. But I got one that does content, one that does line edits, and one that does overall. So I mean, people have editors, and my colleagues never told me that they had editors. So I have no problem saying that. But my copy editor was doing the last draft of the book, or the penultimate draft. And he was like, Dr. Marsh, you tend to go off on a tangent. I can imagine. I can't imagine him saying something like that. But anyways, so clearly I go off on a tangent, even in my talking points. He said, you think that there's something that is a tangent, put it in a footnote, but try to keep the footnotes to a bare minimum. So I have 122 footnotes because I had 122 tangents I wanted to go off on. One of them is something about Friends. Now, Friends doesn't, that footnote doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the overall conversation, but I think it's very important that Friends lived on for 20 years, one of the longest running episodes, and Living Single lived 5, 6, maybe. Right. Same concept. Same exact concept. You throw some white people, put them in Manhattan Beach, I mean, New York City somewhere, and now it's like, oh, look at this. I was like, oh, I'm calling you out. That ain't got nothing to do with school per se, but very important to me. Another footnote that was really kind of important to me, where there was 2, but one that really kind of resonates with me. A lot of the people in the cohort, this might be somebody's question, so I apologize in advance if I take it. They talk about what their middle class identity actually means and what that means to the larger Black community. And a lot of people mention W.E.B. Du Bois's notion of the talented 10, where in a very basic sense, 10% of Black population is going to uplift all of Black America. W.E.B. Du Bois pushed back against his own idea years later. But I had to be sensitive to what the cohort members said and what they were talking about. So I had to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois, but I'm a Black woman in academia, and that's not easy. And so, excuse me, in one of my footnotes, I say, the respondents talked about W.E.B. Du Bois, but there was another writer who was writing at the very same time saying, if you improve the life chances of Black women, you'll improve the life chances of everybody. And her name is Anna Julia Cooper, one of the first Black women to get a PhD, but you probably don't know about her scholarship because there were gatekeepers that were not publishing her work. One of the gatekeepers was W.E.B. Du Bois. Rumor has it that he actually plagiarized some of her work later on in life, although he wouldn't help her to get published. Now, that ain't got nothing to do with singlehood, but you think about a whole book and have W.E.B. Du Bois in my book and don't mention Anna Julia Cooper, you got the wrong person. You got the absolute wrong person. So you get, and I'm a lazy reader and I know this. And so I even helped y'all out. I put the footnotes at the bottom of the page. Not the back of the chapter and not the back of the book. It's at the bottom of the page. So there's some real good stuff in the footnotes. So if you get a chance, please do read those. And I see some of us are reading the footnotes. So thank you.
Well, I love the tangents, if I must say.
Thank you. I do too. He'd be like, no, not relevant. I was like, no. Every time. And so see, sometimes what he would do is he'd cut it out and put it like, track changes. I was like, oh, I'm going to take cut and paste this out of track changes and drop it in a footnote. Relevant there or what? Like, yeah. But there's some footnote. It's so funny because this was 7 years in the making, and I went through so many iterations towards the end. I was like, honestly, I don't even know some of the stuff that made it and didn't make it. I was like, I know he took some footnotes out. I know he did. But I was like, I don't even care. I just like, I wanted it to be done. I wanted to be impressed. I wanted to be able to have conversations around it. So certain things I say, I'm like, I think it's still a footnote. Not even sure if it really still is. He probably knows the book better than I do.
Mhm.
Did
Yeah.
anyone have any questions? Anyone can go, comment, anyone?
Go ahead.
I was like, I got some questions.
Anybody got anything to share?
Well, I would like to share one part. It was so much, but what I really would like to share is which is a struggle for all, for the Salas who don't have children, but it's a struggle even for Black women who do have children. The disparity in healthcare, that's like, even though they are available, it's because I'm marked Black or whatever, they still treat you different, whether or not I have healthcare or the money. They still treat us different, even though they have the money. They don't see that. They just see a face sometimes.
Right.
So
And
even with that.
yep.
Mhm,
And I try to even pick up on that a little bit. Like I said, one of the things I wanted to do
mhm,
is I wanted to be able to cite other Black scholars. And so I
mhm,
think in a footnote, forgive me if I'm wrong,
mhm,
but I hope that I mentioned work by Tina Sachs. She's actually she's out of the School of Social Work, and she wrote a book called Invisible Visits and talked about Black women navigating the healthcare system. Some were single, some were married, and how, you got to put on your Sunday best, you got to throw on your designer stuff, whether it's real or not, you don't know, but you got to have your fake Rolex, you got to have your McDonald's bag, you got to walk up in a doctor's office in hopes that you might get equal treatment, fake
mhm,
treatment. And so I was on a call, I think Friday, one day this week, and they were saying like a lot of women will put wedding rings on in hopes that will help. I got me a nice little wedding ring from Target. My little thing is hot to death. It is hot. So if I'm going like to the car dealership, sometimes I'll throw that thing on because like I'm not trying to pay 3 times as much for some tires. I'm just not. And if I got to go buy me a $12 ring, which is cute from Target, I will put my $12 ring to save myself $1,200 on some tires that first of all, I don't need in the first place, but now you're going to overcharge for these tires that I don't even need. And another footnote, I think, I talk about like the Tuskegee syphilis study, side note, tangent, because I like me a good tangent. My students get this wrong every time. And they think that the medical field gave Black men syphilis. They didn't give them syphilis. And my students get this wrong. Like, yeah, running around shocking people, it's giving people syphilis. No, what they did was they enrolled them in the study if they had syphilis and told them they were going to treat them. And they had the penicillin or the antibiotics, whatever it is, to treat them. But the medical industry wanted to see the effect of syphilis on the body, that they were not treating these Black men. They wanted to see the effects of syphilis on the body all the way up into death. They would let these Black men die, as opposed to giving them a placebo or a sugar pill, as opposed to giving them the antibiotics or penicillin, whatever it is that they could have given them. But see, again, I'm a Black woman. So I think we talked about, I talked about Tina Sachs's book. I talk about invisible visits. And I talk about like how like people are just, they're suspicious of the medical industry because of historical context, like Tuskegee syphilis. But there's the Mississippi appendectomy too, that people aren't as aware of. Now, this is when they were sterilizing Black women in the South without their knowledge. I was like, I'm not going to write a book as a Black woman talking about Tuskegee without bringing in a Mississippi appendectomies. I hope it's still in the book. I don't know if it is. It should still be in the footnote. Yeah, so it really is unfortunate that every single social institution, which I think is to an argument that I was kind of scared about, but no one's pushed back. And so I want to kind of share my fear. So it kind of gets back to this whole notion about how like racism just permeates every single social institution. One of the arguments that I make it in the book is that I'm saying that when we think about singlehood, we've got to look at it from an intersectional perspective. So in real basic terms, intersectionality as a theoretical framework suggests that you can't just look at me as Black and as a woman. You have to look at the intersections of me both being a Black woman, because that's very, if you look at just racism, you ignore the sexism that I have to deal with. If you just look at sexism, you ignore the racism that I have to deal with. So we want to look at these oppressive identities together in tandem at the same time. So if we think about that as an intersectional framework and these oppressive identities, you kind of get that. So one of my colleagues wrote a book called Black Feminist Thought. And the argument that she makes in her book is that there's this matrix of domination. So when it's race, class, and gender all put together, it's like, if you're a poor Black woman, life is going to be hard for you in a lot of different ways because of all of these oppressive identities. And so I'm arguing in this matrix, we should include singleism. So it should be race, class, gender, and singleism. I am not to suggest that singleism is as oppressive as racism. But what I am suggesting is that racism permeates every social institution. I would argue that singleism permeates every social institution too. Every institution caters to us being married and being partnered. And when you're single, there's some kind of deficit and something is wrong with you. I'll give you 3 examples that I think kind of really substantiates my point. If I want to go get a cell phone plan for my ones, yes, I got my book cover on my cell phone background. I sure do. Anybody got a problem with it? Because I can pull it out anytime and be like, hey, go buy this book. Wait, okay, side note. Let me tell you why I'm trying. Well, okay. I'm trying to sell the books for 2 reasons. One, my pastor has told me this is your ministry in some ways, because I really am trying to destigmatize singlehood. I want people, especially Black women, to understand just because you're single does not mean that something's wrong with you. There's a structural part of this conversation. So don't own all of this. But also, none of my colleagues told me this, and I wish I would have known. Cambridge University Press is the top academic press in the world. But Cambridge gets 90% of every book that I sell. My book is $30. I get $3 on every book.
Wow.
Just so that y'all are clear, before I knew any of this, I was like, well, I'm gonna buy me a Rolex of my book. I'll be rocking around my real Rolex. Like, you can look at my real Rolex. I'm now looking at Swatch watches. So if you could recommend a real good Swatch watch, let me know, because I can't get myself to a Rolex with $3 per book. I was like, $3. None of my colleagues have ever told me that. I'm telling everybody else. And I can understand why people do a lot of self-publishing, because you get 100% of the book that you self-published. Now, I do believe being a part of Cambridge University Press allows me into certain spaces. And please understand, I'm not privileging white spaces, but yes, I'm at Princeton showing Love Jones, throwing a 2-minute trailer of Love Jones. These white folks don't know what to do with that. They're like, oh my God, they don't even know. I'm like, yes, it's getting ready to go down. I'm in spaces where I'm talking about how we have to stop openly discriminating against single folks in plain sight, especially because we know Black women dominate the category, but you gonna discriminate against single folks? Yeah, I got a problem with that. So I think, like, I want to get a cell phone, but I want the family rate on my one cell phone plan. Number 2, I was like, after this book tour, I want to go on vacation. But the way the travel industry is set up, you pay more as a single occupant than you do a double occupant. And I'm sure all of y'all can relate to this, especially those that are single. The tax structure. Tax structure has a single penalty built in to its very fabric. And so, see, one of the arguments, so I'm saying, like, we need to think about, like, singleism as an additional oppressive identity. So it's not that I'm a Black woman. I actually am a single Black woman. And that has a whole different set of meaning than someone who's a married Black woman. So I'm thinking that you need to think of that as like one of the oppressive identities. So that argument, I don't get a lot of pushback against. But the argument where I do get a lot of pushback, similar to the argument I'm just making, is that we need to see people who are single need to be considered a family of one. I was literally on a radio show for Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley has a morning show out here, Black radio, talk radio. And I was on one of the co-hosts. Her name was Dominique DePrima. And so she's like, Dr. Marsh, before we go to break, what are some of the things you want to talk about? So I was like, well, I want to talk about Sala being a family of one. And she said, and I quote, that is absurd. I was like, don't you know how to not talk on an open mic? I was like, you're a DJ, don't you know that? So she's like, oh, that's just absurd. So we we went to commercial break, and she came back. She's like, Dr. Marsh, please explain what you mean by this. I was like, can you even hear my argument before you just lay into me? So one of the things I am arguing in the book, that we should be considered a family of one, because if we think about the way in which families define family, let's use the Census Bureau as the gold standard for data collection. The Census Bureau defines family as somebody that you're related to by blood, marriage, or adoption. So since I, Kris Marsh, am not married, don't have any children, and I live alone by definition, I can't be considered in the Census Bureau's definition of family as a family. I am considered a household, not a family. Now let's go back. If you buy my argument that structural forces have constrained my personal choices, and then you don't allow me to be defined as a family, but I have to be a household and I don't get the benefits of a family, that is highly problematic and insidious to me. Either everybody gonna be a family or ain't none of us gonna be a family. You're gonna tell me I can't be a family because I'm not married to somebody is highly problematic to me. And I'm trying to push back against that conversation in the book. Again, I do thank God for Cambridge because they do open up opportunities. I've been talking to Bloomberg. I've been talking to some wealth estate companies. They're trying to figure out how to cater to this market of people that are never married and don't have any children, and whether or not we should consider them a family of one. So the argument that the DJ was making when she said it's absurd, she's like, well, don't you open up the conversation where people marrying their pets and 3 people getting married together and so on and so forth? And I was like, listen, that is beyond the scope of my conversation, but I have laid out a very clear argument why we should be considered a family of one. So I appreciated her that she was open to the conversation. She allowed me to talk, but she's like, don't you think you could get pushed back? Because like I said, I get hate. I don't know if I said it here, but I get hate mail like almost every day saying I'm bad for Black Americans. I am promoting marriage. And listen, I am not, I was on another call in South Africa. So did I not talk about that here?
Oh, yes, you did.
Okay, I'm not gonna promote. I am not gonna promote marriage just for the sake of being married. I'm not. So to the argument that I was making about the tax structure too, there's a colleague, and I cite her work, a Black woman named Dorothy Brown, and she wrote a book called The Whiteness of Wealth. And one of the arguments she makes that we should all file taxes as a single person. And I'm saying if we can't all file as single, I want us to all be able to file as a family. I want to file my taxes as the Marsh family and get the benefits that are in the tax structure for certain married couples. That's my story, and I am sticking to it. Yes.
It's that underway of pushing you saying, yes, you want to be married, even if it's on paper, because it's benefiting you more than it is saying that I'm not,
Right. And one of my colleagues actually pushed back. She's like, well, Kris, do you really want to be considered a family? And she's like, I love the book. I love everything about it. But I do have one criticism. She's like, do you really want to be considered a family? Or do you just want the advantages that come to the title? So I don't care if you call me a family or not, but give me my advantages. Don't disadvantage. I don't care about a title. I really don't. But I'm just like, there's drawbacks built into the fabric of these structures that don't promote singleness and promote you being married, regardless what the relationship looks like. But you should just be in a relationship. Man, miss me on that entire conversation.
Yes. I kind of wanted you to talk about on page 21 when you stated that from a class dimension, the middle class, the Black women are often depicted in the context of the following 3 negative categories and on the media. So can you elaborate a little more on that?
I have no idea what I wrote on page 21. I have no idea whatever, but I appreciate you for that. Okay, so I think what I was saying, if I'm wrong, correct me. But I think, when we think about like professional Black women, I hope this is an adult call and I can use profanity for illustration.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we're angry Black bitches, we're ball busters, our standards are way too high, and ain't nobody good enough for us. Oh, and then there's that. Okay. But when you think about professional Black women, that's usually what the trope is, right? And so here's one of the things that I argue in the book too, and it kind of relates to one of the theoretical frameworks that I'm drawing from. It's like this notion of respectability politics. In its real basic kind of form, respectability politics is when other Black people police other Black people and tell them how to act so they can prevent themselves, protective measure from being discriminated against and racism that exists. White folks can do it too. So I was trying to kind of tease out whether or not the Love Jones cohort felt themselves like in this respectability kind of politics. And one of the things that I think is really important, and there was a conversation just recently about something about a bus driver and some people, and they called me and I was like, I'm not getting into that conversation. But what I am going to say is what I think is important, more importantly than that conversation and where I fit into the conversation is, why do we keep policing Black women? Where do we get to just be? Just let us be. Stop telling us that we're too loud. We're not loud enough. Our butt's too big. Our butt ain't big enough. Our hair's too kinky. Our hair ain't kinky enough. We too picky. We ain't picky enough. So, okay. So then if I decide like I want a PhD, like I said, I want a Black male, heterosexual male with a PhD, it's like I need to lower my standards. But then if I bring the plumber, you got a problem with that. Let us be. But unfortunately, the way the tropes and the stereotypes are set up, when you find this Black woman who's educated, got degrees, got houses, got this and got that, they'd be like, oh no, she's just a bitch. That's what they say. Related to that, loosely related to that, one of the things that came up in the book, footnote, and I had to decide whether or not I wanted to say anything about it, is that I interviewed 74 people and I settled on 62. Okay, I'm gonna come right back to my statement in a minute, my footnote. We interviewed 74, we had to settle on 62. We had to delete some people. So for example, I wanted you to have never been married, never exposed to the stimuli. The reason being is because I wanted to think about like how you were accumulating and disseminating your wealth. So we interviewed one lady. She's like, well, I was married for 5 years. My husband's dead to me, so he doesn't exist. So I'm now never married. I was like, girl, it don't work like that. Like, you don't wait for about 45 minutes into the interview. I was like, you could have told us at the game. We got to sit for the rest of this interview. There was another person who said, my children, now mind you, we're like, never been married, no children, right? Like, my children are money grubbing leeches. So when they turn 18, they're not going to get anything from me. I'm like, okay, wow. Here's what I need you to understand. And I appreciate that person though, because they were like, okay, I have the decision to decide whether or not I'm going to leave something to my children. I want people who don't have that decision to tell me what kind of decisions they're making, because I'm trying to help other people navigate through this singleness. So you think your children are just money grubbing leeches, that's cool. But someone who has assets and don't have children, how are you going to disseminate your wealth? So we had to delete them. We had one guy who was adopted by Black parents, went to a historical Black college, dated Black women, but he was Asian. I was like, did you not see the narrative that says we people? That sounds like we can't include him. So we had to settle on 62, I think it is. Of the 62 people, only 2 people mentioned sex. And so I called one of my colleagues and I said, okay, I don't know what I should do with this. I don't know if I should put a footnote about this or not, because if I don't say anything, I didn't know what to do. If I said something when only 2 out of 62, I don't even know what percentage that is, said something, then I've tied sex to the conversation. If I don't say anything, I want people to know it did not come up. And the reason why I really grappled with that is I was at a talk a couple of weeks ago, it might've been months, all my days run together. And this one woman said, I just want to get a little piece every now and again. So how do we deal with the stereotype of like people, Black people being promiscuous and so on and so forth? And I said, pause, hold on a second. If we're not careful, we're going to equate being promiscuous with being single. Mm-hmm. And to do that is very short-sighted, because you got some married folks out here having sex without their partners, sometimes more than these single folks out here. So miss me on that entire conversation. But also in the same vein, when you see like a professional white woman who's not married and don't have any children, you don't give those same negative stereotypes that you do as a Black woman. Similarly, there was research, and I don't remember if I put it in the book or not, because I really honestly don't remember. I might have put it in a footnote. One of my colleagues wrote a book and he talked about singlehood. And he was talking about how like white people sometimes just get like friends with benefits. They just have this casual kind of sex. I was like, see, white people can do that shit. If we do it, then it falls into this whole conversation about we're being promiscuous, this, that, and the hypersexuality of Black women and so on and so forth. I know I talked about it in the book. I don't know if it made
you put it in the footnote. I think you said something about that slave mentality where white people perceive us as being hypersexuality.
Yeah, y'all read the footnotes, because that's all stuff my white editor, when my white editors took out, but I was like, I'm trying to tell y'all something, so read the footnotes. Thank you for reading that footnote. Be like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So white folks can do that. They can have this whole entire, just a culture. Let us do it. Let us do it. Like it's a double standard. Similar to the point that you're saying about like on page 21, when white women do it, white women are young, professional, don't want to be married, don't have children. Why aren't they white bitches? Well, I call them that anyway, but please scratch that from the record, please. Please scratch that from the record. But,
it kind of reminds me of Sex and the City. Sex and the City, they were perfect, even though they were sleeping with a million every day, they sleeping with different men. But when the Black ladies do it, those women are just hoish, they're just whatever.
Right. So if you put, I don't know if Black women, but if you put Nia Long, Gabrielle Union, Taji P. Henson, and Angela Bassett in the same exact episode as Single and Living, Sex in the City, how long you think that show gonna run? You think they're gonna do a motion picture on that too? Yeah, it's just but you know, we do have girls weekend.
We do have girls, but we don't have a sitcom based off of girls.
Yeah, you got
no, they had a whole series.
Then
they had movies.
And turned into a motion picture. I think two of them.
They had two. They had multiple movies.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the whole point, how like it looks differently. So that's why I'm saying when we think about singlehood, it's very important for us to look at it from different lenses. A single white woman and how they became single and how they navigate single is a very different conversation between how single Black women do it. And we need to make sure that we always have that argument, which is both good and bad, because like I'm in these spaces with other singlehood scholars. So it's both good and bad, because if they see me coming, they know my argument before I get there. And so I'm like, yep, I'm the Black person talking about race. I sure am. They're like, oh, we know what Kris Marsh will say. You do. And every time you think you're going to just take this whole body of scholarship and make it about white women, because like Murphy Brown became a single mother. Now, mind you, now I might be dating myself, but single parenthood was pathologized, the horrible thing. Then Murphy Brown had that sitcom years ago where what was her name? I can't remember her name, but she was a professional woman and she decided to have children. She got a whole sitcom. Because it's pathologized when Black women do it. So I'm like, man, I miss me on that. What was her name? Like, it don't matter. You get the gist. Not us, right? Yes. Yeah. And that's what they're trying to do with the singlehood scholarship right now. But they mad as heck, because here I come. I'm like, every time they get ready to do that, I'd be like, let's insert book. Like, they ain't gonna do that. They ain't gonna do that. I'd be like, oh. Okay. I hope I got at your question, what you were asking on page 21, because I really don't remember what I wrote on page 21.
Yes, you did.
Well, I want to say one thing, which I never paid attention to, that you said you intentionally put white in the lowercase w and Black in the capital B, because the newspaper, I forget which one, says more things is more dramatic to put Black in the capital B. I never knew that.
Yeah. And so, it's funny because Cambridge, one of my editors, I had 2 Black women and 1 white man. One of my editors, like, you need to, like, they're just reading it, right? So like, you just need to be consistent. Why are you? And I was like, oh, no. There's a reason. It is intentional. And that's that handy dandy footnote, because it's a footnote. I was like, listen, here's exactly why I capitalize B, because being Black is more than a notion. And so I was like, being Black and white are very different. So it's very important that I keep it capitalized. And so, yes, if you look at it visually, there is a discrepancy, but it is very intentional. I also grappled with, I'm not sure if y'all read the first footnote, if I'm not mistaken. I say that I'm unapologetically Black. I talk about some of my privileges. I talk about how I'm cisgender, I'm Christian, English is my native language. And I also talk about my hair, and my hair being 3C. And I was like, by golly, I guarantee you some white people are Googling right now 3C hair. But I read a whole book about hair privilege and how we don't talk about hair privilege enough. I reviewed a book for NYU Press. It was a young Black woman who had wrote it. And I was like, I want to be able to give her some space on my book. Because again, this is about politics of citation. I want to cite young Black scholars. I was like, hair privilege is real. And you do know, I wouldn't go write a whole book. I did a thing at Howard. So Howard did a screening of Love Jones the day before. They did a cookout, and then I came and gave a talk, because Love Jones is 25 years old. Some of the kids in college, young kids, haven't even seen the book yet, seen the movie yet. And so they said, Dr. Marsh, you do realize that your book is partly a conversation about like colorism, how darker skinned Black women have to navigate being single and living alone. So I was like, I also talk about colorism in one of the chapters too, because you can't get away from having a conversation about singleism without talking about colorism. And I have a friend of mine, this guy I know, I ain't calling him a friend. He's like, I just like light-skinned women. And so I was like, and so my response back to him was, no, you don't. I'm not frozen. Then let me move, say, no, I'm not frozen. And then I paused for a very long time, because I was like, I would appreciate, and please understand, nothing wrong with light-skinned women. I was like, if I be out in the sun, although my girlfriend tells me who's light-skinned is keep my ass out the sun. I was like, take that colorist views out your mouth, but okay. When I said, when you go golfing, you should wear a hat. I was like, are you worried about me getting skin cancer? You're worried about me getting dark skin? I don't know. I embrace my color. I don't know about you. But here's the point. I said to him, I said, I would really respect you if you said, I've been conditioned to think white is right and closer to white is right, and I want light-skinned women because of that. But if you go sit here and try to tell me that that is just your preconceived notion that you think like that you just have a preference for white, light-skinned women. No, you don't. You have been conditioned from a very, very, very young age. Say that. I'm cool with that. Everything I've ever been told and taught and seen has said light is right. Say that. But that's just say you have a propensity for light-skinned women. That's not true. It's just not true. And so I have to talk about colorism in the book as well. I mean, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Yes. And my friend, one of my students told me like about new term that I learned, footnote, colorist. Like you can be a racist, you can be a colorist. I was like, well, I'm getting ready. So now I got to call my friend back and I'll talk to him. He done married a light-skinned woman, and I done blocked him in my phone. So I'm whenever I decide to unblock him, like, yeah, what's up, colorist? Because you ain't nothing but a colorist. But I blocked him, so I can't call him out right now. But I promise y'all, I ain't got no sense. This is always the same. This is the same conversation you're gonna get. I was like, listen, I'm at the place where I'm gonna be 50 in August, and I just am really excited to have the conversation. Some of these conversations can be hard. They can be painful. And reading through 62 respondents and like about being single and how families treat them and friends treat them and how they have to the stigma. That's a whole conversation in the book about stigma and the stigma associated with this. I was like, I try to make it lighthearted, but there's some really deep things that you have to think about in this book. I was on a panel right before this. And this one lady was saying, oh, this book is so, one of the books she was reviewing. It's like, this book is so easy. You can read it in 2 days. I was like, that ain't how my book is going to go. And for the record, if you haven't read it yet, just a little bit of notes on how to read it. Clearly, you want to read the footnotes, but the introduction in chapter 1 can be quite theoretical. I mean, so much so, I'm not a theoretical person. So much so when I was doing the copy edits, I literally was like, yeah. But then I was like, no, I've got to read it word for word. So I'm going to make sure there are no typos. But it was so incredibly boring to me. And I wrote it myself. But when you get to chapter 2, I tried to have a whole different voice. And I think it's an academic version of trying to make something accessible. So I don't know if I failed or passed, but please do let me know if chapters 2 through 10 are way more accessible than the beginning chapters. And the reason why I say that is because I'm so mad. I have this book is on sale on Amazon. Now, I thought I was like killing it. I was getting all 5 stars. And then this one person, which I think is a man, but I don't know. They said, it's not they gave me 2 stars out of 5, 2 out of 5. And they said, it's not horrible, but it's way more of an academic book, not something you want to assign for a book club. I was like, did you not see Cambridge University Press on the side of the book when you bought it? It is an academic book, and gave me 2 stars. 2 stars out of 5, bringing my whole average down, So I want to tell people it is an academic book, but I do think chapters 2 through 10 are much more accessible. It's my trying to be accessible as a scholar. So please do let me know if I passed or failed on that endeavor that I set out to do for chapters 2 through 10.
Yeah, you passed, definitely. Anybody have any questions? Anybody want to say anything, share anything? Anything in the book that stuck out to you?
A lot of things stuck out. Write them all down.
Right.
That you would like to discuss?
Well, let me see. Actually, I would like to discuss the family aspect and also 2 things. Speaking of reference to the Bible, when you were talking about how the women have upgraded in gifts, it reminded me of the Bible. I can't tell you exactly when. It was 2 gifts that was given to the altar, and one guy gave just an average thing. He didn't accept that gift, and then the other one gave everything. So it's kind of like when you said the women have upgraded. Of course, we need upgraded gifts. We need better chances. But a lot of times people are like, oh, no, you can settle for this. No, why would I settle for this? This is what you have to offer me. This is what I have to offer. So kind of like in the Bible, I'm offering you salvation, but the only thing you offer me is a piece of cloth. No, that's not going to do. You know what I'm saying? When you have a whole, thing to do, I'm upgraded. You got to give me better to the altar.
Right. So I want to answer that in 2 points, and then I have to go because I have a 12 o'clock call that I was supposed to be on, so I'll be 5 minutes late. So 2 points. One, I was so excited to write this book because I say at the beginning, I'm a Christian. I really wanted to be in Black churches, talk about this book. Once I wrote it, I was like, I was a little critical about marriage and the Black church. I thought I was gonna be. I was like, ain't nobody gonna have me in a Black church. Ain't nobody gonna have me. I was like, I'm holding out hope that I'm gonna be able to be in Black churches, but we just gonna see what happens. But to your second point, and then I have to go on this one. I did a thing for BET. BET has a new episode out called America in Black. They interviewed me for 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Put like 2.5 hours and cut it up into 6 minutes.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they did this little thing where they like put something out on social media, like, hey, please tune in at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock to hear about Black love and blah, blah, blah. And so then it says, you hear a snippet of me saying, well, if you want to improve marriage rates for Black Americans, pay Black Americans reparations. So some people get on the call. I don't read comments, but my social media manager was like, you got to respond to some of these comments because they are blowing up. And they were like, see, these gold digging Black women, like it's all about money and so on and so forth. Where she get her PhD from in a Cracker Jack box? I was like, no, actually the University of Southern California at $60,000 a semester. Miss me, all of that. But the point is that and so you take it out of context, but it becomes salacious, right? And it becomes like a teaser. People want to talk about it. But the point I'm trying to get people to understand is like, again, when we think about singlehood, we can't leave it at the individual level. If you're thinking about access to opportunity, I was like, maybe if we pay Black Americans reparations, my dating pool may not be as constrained as it is now. And I can marry that heterosexual Black man that I want to, because that's my preference. That's my business. If that's what I want to do, don't question me about my business. But at the end of the day, if we are thinking about singleism, we've got to have a structural conversation. And because if nothing else, if we don't, it's like you're telling Black women that they got to carry all this, and they got to change, they got to do X, Y, and Z. It's not an individual conversation. It really is a structural. And worst case scenario, if I'm wrong and the marriage rates don't change, at least Black Americans got reparations.
Well, I think it's funny that they can give everybody reparations except for Black, anything that's like Black related.
I saw a sweatshirt and I was a Black woman. I bought one. And so one sweatshirt, it says, don't let these degrees fool you. So I'm gonna start there. But the next one said, my next one I'm gonna buy. It was like, they were rather expensive as a Black woman, so I didn't care. She said, you can't steal it when we built it. Or wait, she said, you can't loot it when we built it. I was like, oh, you know what kind of looks I'm in the airport. I'm rocking my shirt like, you can't loot it when we built it. I'm like, or when you, because loot is the last word. So I think she says, when you built it, it's not looting, I think is what it actually says. Oh, yeah. I likes that. So when y'all see that, when you hear about this little Black girl getting beat up at the airport or having a fight with somebody in the airport, you know, I got on my "it ain't looting" shirt. You know, like Kris there showing her tail in the airport.
She wore the t-shirt. She wore it to the airport.
Well, it has truly been a blessing and a pleasure to be on with you all. So thank you so much for reading the book. Please do, stay in touch. Let me know what you think about it. If everyone want to come back, I will definitely come back. But thank you so much for reading the book, and please recommend it to other people so I can keep my numbers up and we can keep the conversation going, because I think it really is an important conversation. Yes, yeah, question. Oh, okay.
I was trying to do another emoji and I totally hit the wrong thing. Sorry.
Like, well, thank you.
Thank you again for taking the time out to join us. And definitely you have another book. We definitely want to read it and have you on again, hopefully soon.
Okay. I will let you know.
Yes. Thank you so much. And we'll end the call here.
Okay, all right. Take care. Happy birthday.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Marsh.
All right, bye everyone. Do y'all want to still stay on here or talk about anything? Or we can definitely pick the book for next month since everybody is so quiet today.
I think we were gonna have questions, Tanisha. That's why I didn't really bring anything. Usually you have questions, so I didn't really.
Questions for what?
For us.
For the book club. Like, so that's kind of what I was waiting on.
No,
like,
I want everyone, I had stated before, everyone have their own questions like we did when we had the other author. Everyone have their own questions.
Missed that talking point.
Yeah. So It's all good. I think it went great, you know, and like I said, she didn't have a lot of time, so I'm glad that we kind of started on time, but we was waiting for a couple more people. But yeah, the winner was Ebony for April, because we read the book, The Other Misses. So you all can just send me your number and the book of choice and just put it in the group me chat. And then we can go ahead and pick the book for June. For June, we will be going to the Chicago Mahogany bus tour.
I'm gonna have to take a trip.
Yeah, we're gonna be going to Pullman area on the south side in the hundreds. So we'll be, like I said, it's gonna be a 2-hour trip. I believe it starts at, the Pullman tour starts at 2 o'clock, I believe. It's from 2 to 4. And I think the price is like $40, $45, something like that. And then after that, we'll just, you know, talk about the book and have a drink, or, you know, how we do. So just plan that in your schedule for June, the last Sunday in June. That's our anniversary as well. Michelle, would you be able to attend that? No? Okay. So yeah, it's gonna be June 25th at, no, I believe I don't have it on my calendar. I don't know. Either June 18th or 25th. I thought I wrote it on my calendar. I think it's the last Sunday, because they always do the last Sunday anyway. So I believe it's June 25th. But I'll put everything in group me. Don't worry about it. I'll let you all know.
The 18th is Father's Day. So is
okay,
it the 25th?
So then, yeah, it's not going to be Father's Day, because we talked about that, and it's going to be the next Sunday, which will be the 25th. So yeah, it'll be the 25th. I believe I'm gonna go on their website this week and see if we can go ahead and when we can start purchasing tickets. And I'll be trying to talk to someone just to get some more information for us. I don't know if I'm gonna designate the pickup location, or if they're gonna give me the pickup location. I'm not sure yet, so that's why I need to talk to them as well. But just make sure you put that date on your calendar. That's what I want you to do. Put the date on the calendar. And like I said, we'll be going on a tour from 2 to 4. He has his own bus. It's a new bus provided by the city of Chicago. They donated him money to have his own bus. So that's always good. It's new, so we're gonna have air. So yeah, and we'll talk about the book afterwards. And then July, I'll wait and tell y'all about that. Oh, but we do have another Zoom with an author. Her name is Anita Kopacz. Anita, Anita, last name Kopacz. Her book is called Shallow Waters, SHALLOW Waters with an S. She is, I believe she collabs with Charlemagne the God. So she's kind of famous, I'm sure, as well. And I reached out to her a while ago, set a date for us. It'll be October the 22nd. Her book is more of a fictional book. It's related to, we read a book before called The Water Dancer. So if some of you've already read that, it's kind of like in that aspect. It's a historical fiction. But like I said, it's a very popular book. Many people have read it. He even have it on his platform on The Breakfast Club. If you watch the video on YouTube, it's right behind him when he speaks. It's his book and then her book. So it's, like I said, it's a very popular book. She'll be on with us on October 22nd at 1 o'clock. So save the date for that in your calendar. I do want to introduce our new member. We have Diana with us. We already have a Diane. She's on the call, but she's on mute, but we have Diana. So can you take it off mute and just say hello to everybody? It's at the top, I believe. Yeah, just pull the screen down and then it's at the top. I can't hear you.
Yeah, swipe to the right. Can you swipe to the right? I don't know what kind of phone you have.
I think she's having some difficulties.
I know, say tap to speak, maybe.
She probably don't know how to do it. But yeah, she's a new member. That's okay, don't worry about it. She's a new member, Yolanda.
You can't unmute and mute people. You the host. You can't unmute and mute people.
No, I don't have that control. No, I don't. Everybody had their own thing working it.
Oh, but hey, Diana.
Yeah, just wave, yeah. Yeah, so this is her actual first book club. She been bought the book, been read the book. So like I said, just welcome. And thank you, Yolanda, for bringing her on in to our group. And like I say, the next Zoom will be in October. For June, July, August, we'll be outdoors, enjoying the summer weather. Alrighty. And then July, we're gonna have a private pool party at my friend's home. It's just gonna be us, nobody else. It's a big pool, just us. Music. Talk about the book, get a little water, get a little wet, you know what I'm saying?
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be nice, you know. And I always like to do private stuff. I don't know, I just like private stuff because people don't feel comfortable, you know. People still trying to get their own little social distancing going. How we all?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my bikini body up. Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's definitely a big pool. I'm like, I don't even know how to swim, but you know, I'm gonna put my little feet in the water, splash a little water, you know. So yeah, I just like that it's private and it's gonna be us and we can talk and you know have our little
Say no
sessions.
swimming lessons.
I'm sorry.
Swimming lessons. You know, when I was there, I said I was going to take swimming lessons.
Oh,
you know,
oh,
drive
yeah.
down, they'd be like, "Oh, we offer swimming." I never did it. I still don't know how to swim.
I know Nadine. She said she takes swimming lessons.
Yeah, I was supposed to have one right after I called today, but we canceled, so we're gonna move it to later. But yeah, I am taking them right now. Mm-hmm.
And I seen a great
figured how
swim
to
cap.
unmute me.
Oh,
So
hi, girl.
I figured it out. Yeah.
Yay. I just want you to say hello to everybody. Introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I enjoyed it.
Great.
I had those same glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you live?
You know?
Oh yeah,
I
Zulip.
do. I'm gonna show you.
That's why I use
Where
my
do you
best.
live? Where do you live? Diana?
I live in Texas.
All right, Texas.
Michelle lives in Texas as well. What part, Diana?
Texarkana. I'm ashamed to say. Yeah, Texarkana.
Is that near you, Michelle? No. Take the phone off.
That's when you first entering into Texas. It's Texas and Arkansas. That's why it's called that. But no, I don't live by her. I'm in Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea about Texas. So
Yeah, I know what it was until I drove into Texas.
Mhm.
I was like, wow, they didn't have nothing else to name this, so they had to name it. So
Well, it's a city in 2 states, so they just combined the name, I guess.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what's funny about it.
Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what
the Texas side.
Mhm.
I was in Dallas for 14 years.
Wow, that's a long time. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool. Like, oh, we got somebody else in Texas. Yeah. You know, hopefully we'll make our way down to Texas soon. But yeah, so like I said, thank you, Yolanda, for bringing her on into the group. We are definitely excited to have her. We love new members.
I got new members for you. You know, everybody wants to read book. When I be like, I read this book. Speaking of which, do you remember the book that we read where the girl was dating a rapper and she started dating another rapper? What was the name of that book?
I think it was Let Me Love You. Was that
Let
it?
Me Love You. Okay.
With the man with his shirt off on the front of the book, because it was kind of a juicy book. I think that might have been it.
When the wife had cheated on him and the baby wasn't his.
I think it might have been Let Me Love You.
Okay.
No,
If not, it was
Broken Crayon Still Color.
Broken Crayon Still Color was when she got put out the house and she was dating because I mixed the two together, but I knew there was 2 separate books. So Broken Crayon Still Color, it was a rapper who her mama put her out the house on the streets with the baby, but she had a baby by somebody, an NBA player. Broken Crayon Still Color. And she took the money that he paid her for whatever, and she flipped it and did whatever and bailed him out. That was Broken Crayon Still Color. But I don't remember the other book because I mixed them up.
It had to be Let Me Love You because I got on here. His name was Everett Big South. He was a famous rapper.
That's it. Yeah, thank you.
What about it?
No, because conversation at work, the girl was talking about, I just eat pineapples all the time. I said, whatever. So that's
Yeah,
what it was in that book.
yeah, he did talk about pineapples in the book. Yeah,
I was like, really? Yeah, all the time. I love pineapple. I said, okay, whatever.
yeah, he got a whole series for his book though. It's called "Let Me Hold You, Let Me
Oh,
Love
wow.
You, Let Me Everything." But it's a whole.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Who was the author for that? I think it was. I want to say it was a Black lady. Oh, I can't think of her. I think it was Alexandria something.
Yeah.
Let me, cause she writes some.
Raunchy
Ooh,
stuff.
yes, baby. She always talking about how she works in run another. Her name is Alexandria House. Alexandria House. House. And she has a whole series, but I think Let Me Love You, I think that's the first one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I
because
think-
they were like, what's the name of the book? I'm like, "Dang, remember that book?"
Yes. Her books
When she
are
said it, 'cause they was like,
very-
I want to read it.
Yes, her books are very erotic. That's
Mhm.
what she is. She's an erotic author. Yeah. So just want to let everybody know in case y'all want to read her books. Oh, did y'all know that the author passed away? Tracy Brown. She wrote Single Black Woman and some other books. I just posted her books up recently. She passed away, I believe, last week. Yeah, so I just wanted to let you all know her name was what was her name? Single Black. I think it was Single Black Female. That's what it was. Tracy Brown. Yeah. I don't know what happened yet. All we know is her family end up posting saying, hey, she just up and deceased. So I don't know. But yeah. So I really wanted to read one of her books and get it on it. Plus she was on, I believe, what's that guy with a lot of kids? Nick Cannon. He was promoting her book for her as well. She was on his platform and he was promoting her book. So yeah, maybe we'll get a chance to read it somewhere down the line. I don't know. But yeah, so I was trying to send the list. I remember you know they told me send the list to the book chat. I could do it because it was so many books. We got a lot of them. So I think I'm gonna have to send it. That's probably gonna have to go through the group text or something, since I still have everybody on that, and then I can just put the new members and add them individually, send it to them so they can at least have a list on their hand. I'll definitely send that out. But yet, anybody else want to talk about anything? Anybody? Diane, thank you for joining us. We couldn't see your face. I know you was on mute, but you was having some technical difficulties earlier, but I'm glad you was able to jump on in and listen. Did you all enjoy the discussion?
I did.
Good. Did y'all enjoy the book?
I did.
For the most part.
Yeah.
I still gotta read it. I still gotta read part of it. I didn't finish it.
Well, the first part was hard to read because I'm like, this book is something else. Until Diana was like, it's like a documentary, whatever. Okay, let me read it. I've never read how, like, what is it called, documentary? I never thought. No, you know how they have the documentaries on the television shows, documentary.
Oh, a
about
documentary.
I love watching documentaries, and that's what I felt the book was like in the
I
beginning.
don't.
Well, I said I love watching them. I didn't love reading that part of it. Okay, all the statistics. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but then later on, it kind of picked up a little bit, like, oh, okay, when she started
So
talking
that's
more,
what I'm like. Okay, if I think
when
of it
she
like
started
that.
talking more about the cohort, the love,
Yeah.
cohort, it kind of picked up the pace and was like, oh, okay, more relatable.
That's why I need to fast forward to. I'm like, I need to just skip.
I would have wanted to hear more from the male point of view. I think we already know a lot of us being single, it's by circumstance. Like, you might now sit in your choice, but it's kind of by circumstance. So I would have wanted to hear more from the men's perspective, because I feel like with theirs, it's a little bit by choice. Most of the time when men are ready to settle down and get married, they pretty much can. It's a choice. It's a choice if they want to be single, or if they are single, they're most times trying to pick outside of their realm of who they should be dating. They're trying to date up, and they may have to date where they kind of should be. We date up, but we don't have nobody up there with us sometimes. So that's where the circumstances come in at. But I feel like I would have liked to hear more from men. And I'm glad she brought up the colorism issue, because I will say it wasn't until I came to Texas that the colorism issue is very, California and probably Texas is very prominent. Like I didn't really see it in Chicago. In Chicago, you know,
I did.
Chicago's in
I
a
do.
different world.
I do. I see it.
You do.
I mean, I think you see it now, but when I've never had an issue with dating, ever had an issue with dating. Down here, I think it's more pronounced. They're not even trying to date light skin down here. They're trying to date white and Mexican.
I can see that in Texas, you know.
So I think that's where I would have liked to kind of like see more of that, more of the men speaking, because I think we speak all the time. We kind of know what the issue.
The men spoke a lot in the book. Did you?
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
of the quarter, she had like 2 or 3 of the 60 ones.
I mean, I saw, but
2 or 3.
not much.
yeah.
But she kind of spoke on it, like when the guy was like, I like light-skinned women only. So I think that was her pet peeve, because she doesn't really associate with being light-skinned. So when the guy was like, I only like light-skinned, and there's a lot of men that only date light-skinned. I mean, the same way with black women. There's some black women that only date light-skinned men. You'd be like, what are you doing? You know, or kind of like that book we read.
And that's the colorism. Yeah, that's the colorism. It's not the person. It's all about colorism. You can't say you only like light-skinned people because light-skinned people are bad. No, you're like, that's colorism.
Yeah. Am I a colorist then? Because I only like dark skin. Like the darker the better.
You reverse racist. So you miss out on a good thing because you only like dark skin.
That's my preference.
That's what you like to look. But I mean, when you say you like dark skinned men, you're saying that's what you like to look at. That's what attracts you. But to say that you only like dark skinned men, that doesn't mean that's who he is, right? Dark skinned man doesn't mean like he is better than anybody else. It's just that's what you like to see.
That's what I like. Yeah, pretty much.
Attractive to you, but I mean, if you get to know somebody that's light skinned and that has all the qualities that you want, it wouldn't even matter if he was light skinned or dark skinned. You'd be like, I really like him. But if I'm looking, to my eyes, you know, I like to see dark skinned men.
Yeah, I think Diana that's just her preference. Colorism is when you strictly only want to date this particular.
That's her.
race.
That's her. It's the color of your skin, the shade of your skin. That's her. But for me, I'm like that.
Like this, because I don't like that we are really minimizing this, because this is a real issue. And when us as Black women say we only want to date dark Black men, that's fine. But we are not being dark Black men are not constantly being attacked daily like dark-skinned Black women. We are being seen as not feminine, not beautiful. Yeah, so it's like we're not a standard of beauty, versus most of the time when they do decide to do movies and things like Idris Elba, he has navigated, Denzel Washington, they have navigated. But let's talk about Black dark-skinned women that have navigated to be seen as beautiful, or that leading character that's romanticized. It's not many. When you see Viola Davis, she may play a lead character, but she's not being romanticized. She's not the leading romantic rom-com character.
No, that's the Tyler Perry syndrome. He always goes to the light-skinned woman. Like Tyler Perry's real bad about that.
I think that's the difference, where yes, most Black women say, oh, I love me a black man, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But when you flip that and then you ask Black men, they're more on the other side of the spectrum, where they're more of, you know, like he said, I only date light-skinned women, and you really do have to push back and tell them that you're conditioned. That's a condition.
But they don't even know that.
They don't. I personally believe they do know that, but they choose not to. The same way light-skinned women choose to be oblivious or obtuse they know they have this privilege. The same way white people know they have privilege, but we're gonna say, oh no, we don't have privilege. What do you mean? It's colorism. What do you mean?
Right.
So I think that's kind of my little sense with that. But the book was good. It was a very hard read. I didn't realize it was that hard to read because I waited to the last minute to read it, but it was interesting to read it and really just see just how it depends on your age, like how you view your life and how you view being being Sala. It really depends on your age. Like as you start getting older and life set the circumstances where you may be a single, living alone, where you start getting more comfortable and figuring out other ways to navigate life besides maybe having a significant other or a partner, versus when you're younger. I think you navigate it differently. Like I don't think none of us thought this would be our life. Like no one thought this would be our life, that we wouldn't be married with whatever we wanted. We thought we would have it, and it didn't. And when it didn't show up, probably at a certain age, we just had to navigate through life in a different way to make ourselves happy. Well, rather I do. I'm speaking where if I don't have that MRS, I'm not really tripping because man is choice. Man is definitely choice at this point. Previously, it was circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you really look at the big picture, I mean, we all do not have to be single. We can go out here and get a man tomorrow. We wouldn't love it. It's not just saying he gonna be this perfect man, but we can go get whoever. You know what I'm saying? He right out there. Go up the street. By the time you come home, you out your house. I mean, they not far.
I just want to bring another thing up about how they so it's mostly Hollywood standards as far as the colorism. So like speaking of Saturday Night Live, I don't know if you ever noticed that all the Black women are portrayed by Black men. Like we look like men. We don't look like men, you know what I'm saying? But the women, they have the actors. And they have white female comedians. They might have, I think they finally got, what's her name, Maya, but she left. And then the other young lady, I forget her name. But they normally have the men portraying women, Black women, the Black men portraying women. That's all I have to say on that note, because it really pissed me off every time I see it. Other than that,
I don't really watch Saturday
I
Night.
don't think I noticed that.
Is it because there are no Black women on there besides Maya Rudolph? Like who was on there that was Black besides Maya?
Maya Rudolph and the other lady, I forget her name.
Leslie Jones, I think, was on there.
Yeah, Leslie Jones. Yeah, they don't have.
After Leslie, there was another one of who else?
There was another Black lady. I can't remember her name, but it's
She
not.
dark skin. She on there now. Is she, or she just leaves?
Oh, I don't know, but they have a lot of roles, which really pissed me off. But I just see the clips. I don't watch Saturday Night Live anymore. But when I see it, it's like, that's probably the reason why I really don't watch it, because when I noticed like all the men were playing women.
So wait, I can't relate. Give me some men that were playing women. I'm like, who's
any of the Black characters? Any of them? They play women on Saturday Night Live when they're doing skits.
I can't recall any.
So if you Google the men who played, let me do it right here.
I ain't watched no Saturday Night Live. What channel ain't even come on?
NBC.
It come on late.
Yeah, it comes on late. Like
Oh,
at
yeah.
10:30. But the only time I watch it, if it's like a celebrity guest that I may want to see, that's really the only time I may watch it. But for the most part, I don't, because it's so boring.
Yeah, I watch. So what happened is I see the skits, or when people stream them and stuff like that. That's the only time I watch it. Like Black Jeopardy, I watch that.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Mm-hmm. But I don't watch Saturday Night Live. I watch the skits that people send me, whatever, where it has been.
Girl, we ain't knocking you if you watch that Saturday Night Live, girl.
So I don't watch it. And speaking of, I just Googled it. Only 4 Black women have played on Saturday Night Live. I'm just saying the Hollywood standards of how, like how you said, Tyler Perry, who's fallen into that Hollywood standards of Black, you know, if you're light better. He do that with his men too. So his men are mostly light skinned. I'm surprised. What's his name? Mr. Brown is character in there, but everybody's light skinned. Like
The good guys, yeah. They rise above and
they're either light skinned, pretty hair. No, that's not, you know, that texture, whatever. That's in most of his plays.
Does he like
No, Clifton Powell always plays a bad guy.
But he's not in Tyler Perry stuff either. You know,
Well, that's,
you know, he plays a bad guy, but Clifton Powell, he don't cast Clifton Powell. He's too dark. You know, and he's a good actor.
Oh, yeah, he always played the drug dealer again. Okay,
So
that guy.
he cast Christian Keys. Well, I like Christian Keys, but he ain't too much. He's easy on the eyes, but he ain't a good actor. You know.
I wanted to touch on a couple points real quick. It's on chapter 10. Did anybody get to that chapter?
10. What's going on then?
Let me look to see.
Just tell us what was in the chapter.
I don't know why you trying to look to see, because you know it's only 10 chapters. And if you gotta look to see, your ass ain't get there.
Yeah, I know I didn't.
Yeah, that's the chapter I did read because I was like, I need to get to this end. But go ahead. This damn book taking all day.
I thought there was that.
I read the whole chapter 10. I will say I read the whole chapter 10. But go ahead. What you want to say, honey?
I was gonna say you went from 2 to 10, huh?
The situation.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you know what? She referenced back and forth. So like in 10, I don't know, because it was like a documentary. It was hard for me, but she referenced situational loneliness. You know, so I don't know if it was emotional or whatever. Is that what you're referring to, or are you referring to?
Oh no. You can keep that though, because we can talk about that. But I wanted to make another point. You know what? Go ahead and talk about your situational loneliness. I'll come to mind. I want you.
It wasn't so much that. It was like, because I lived alone in Chicago, but to me, I always find stuff to do, and I do have a close knit family that I can talk to. You know, when I moved there, I moved here alone, but I still have family, friends that I talk to, or whatever. But I never feel that loneliness. And then it also could be because I ain't an avid social media person either. Where I'm constantly looking at social media for, I guess, gratification, for some kind of liking. How many likes? I don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like I might scroll through it and I'm off. They'd be like, "Did you see it?" No, I didn't, because I ain't got time for that. I'm too busy with work involved, whether it's housework, yard work, work at home, schoolwork, whatever. That work category keeps me busy. I don't know if it's a coping mechanism, so I won't feel that way, but that's just how I am,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the part I wanted to share with you all was when it stated that on page 146, it stated that the study shows that Black Americans have higher mortality rates than white Americans. Did y'all know that?
No.
Black Americans have a higher mortality rate than white Americans. Also,
what do they base that off of? What do you mean by mortality rate?
Death rate?
No. Are they saying that suicide? Are we dying by? Are we dying by? Are we dying by health? Are we dying by? What do you mean?
It's heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, hypertension, and homicide. Like I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I can believe
that.
Because a lot of us don't go to the doctor. And even when we do, we get, there's nothing wrong with you, So, I mean, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it also has to do with diet as well. Like you can't deny diet plays a major part in a lot of the things that that's listed. It's dietary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
some health things can help those skinny people. There's skinny people who have cancer. There's skinny people who have high blood pressure, but they don't have our stress level. Just living in Black and being Black in America alone is enough for stress itself. because for me, I do have a son. So it ain't so much, he's an adult male. So it ain't so much, he don't live with me, but I still worry about him. I don't want anything to happen to him. So that stress alone, because I know he's a Black male and most people are afraid of Black men. I don't care what they say, because they're more, how can I say? They're in structure, they are more domineering. I don't care however you look at them. When you see a Black man against any other culture, they are strong. Just their body shape and structure itself is strong and fierce. So they are fearful of the unknown. Like, oh, this guy is going to do this. They're going to harm me. That to me is stressful alone. I don't care what I eat. I don't care if I eat everything correctly, even if and then in our Black communities, we don't have everything that's available in the white communities. We don't have the parks and the gyms and all the different things they have just sitting there waiting. Because when I lived in Chicago, I lived in Palatine. There was gyms, there was the YMCA, there was I don't know how many forest preserves in that same area, which is crazy when you don't have it in all the rest of the areas. You have them disparately throughout. So it's like, even if I did want to exercise on myself or do whatever, it wasn't available. But in their community, because I say there because it was predominantly white, everything was available to them, fruit markets, fruit stands.
Yolanda, I'll push back on that a little bit, because in the city, we do have parks. We do, but we use parks for a different reason, right? We have Garfield Park, we have Columbus, and I'm speaking on the west side, Garfield Park, Columbus Park, there's stuff on the west side too. But we have little parks in between, but we don't go to the park to walk around. We don't go to the park to walk around the track. We don't go to the park to, we go to party, you know what I mean? We use those to grill, to cook out, we put a whole bunch of shit on the ground. You know what I mean? We don't use them for the reason in which they are intended to. So we have them, just don't use them like that. I mean, that's what I see. I could be wrong.
You ain't lying. Cause baby,
Yep, I agree.
Every park on the west side right now,
Man, lit. You hear me?
Yep.
Lit. Music, chants, food, all of that. We talk about dietary, all the chicken and the fish and the ribs and the pop and all
the
that.
hot links,
Everything. And we'll leave that shit right there, and then we'll go home.
You said
And
right
then
there.
it'll be a mess in the morning. Like, seriously, did we just do this?
No, they don't know how I got there.
She ain't lying. She ain't lying. We do not utilize the parks. You're right. Even the beaches and stuff. We go out there to kick it or whatever. The white people that came out there, they riding the bikes. I see more. I will say in the city, I see more people with bikes now. I guess they done caught on. It's less on gas.
Listen, because I'm deprived down here, because like the access is there for people to go walking. Like here, like literally I have to go drive somewhere, and I live in a very nice neighborhood, but Dallas is not a walkable city. That's the thing that I do not like, where they don't walk down here. If you walking, you poor. Like, what's wrong with you? You ain't got
people looking at you like, why?
Because it's too hot down there to walk.
You can't run on 24/7. Like, it's just, this is just not a walkable city. Like, and it's like, I was going to go for a walk because all I could do is walk right now. And I was like, if I go down here, like, what would happen if like I had to put a sharing on for my sister? Like, listen, if somebody might take me, you gotta make sure you got somebody tracking me. I'm always thinking I'm gonna get taken. Like, don't nobody want me. I think somebody want me. They gonna try to set me into sex trafficking. I don't know. I just
Lord. Yeah, you watching the movies. You watching them movies.
I just think that all the time, and I live in a triangle too. Like Texas is a triangle with the sex trafficking. So I'm frying.
I be thinking the same thing. Michelle.
I just be like,
out the country by myself. Somebody I know going out of the country, like, you gonna go by myself? I think somebody gonna catch me and like kidnap me or something. I just don't know if I can make it. I don't think I'll do it. I have to at least go with one person or something. Like, I just don't know if I'm gonna make it back to the US.
Somebody got to tell your story, Tanisha. What happened? I know you can't tell it.
You watch too much television and you just be like, yo, no, because that shit is real. People are coming up missing, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just one of us, and it's like a whole band 100%. That's it. You gone. You out of here. You in the third world. Nobody don't know you. You don't know where you at. You in dark space.
Right. And so your friend with you got to tell what happened. I hear you. He or she got to say what happened, you know.
One of us don't make it out. One of us. It's a better chance. When you by yourself, I don't know. You know, and then Chicago, who you gonna get to come out there to help you? Ain't no Martin Luther King, ain't no Malcolm X no more. Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
You know, who you gonna call? Ain't nobody gonna come over there to try to come save you all the way over there. You just gotta pray. You know, your family just gotta pray. And I don't want to go through that. So let me just regroup, think this over, and how we gonna get over there. But yeah, so I did want to
she mentioned that too about she thinks is related to how they practice on us. They do practice on us. When she was talking about the Tuskegee experiment and how the people don't want to go to the doctor, which I understand why they don't want to go to the doctor. But again, they've been practicing on us for centuries. So it's like, oh, we're supposed to forget that all of a sudden. No.
Yeah, but I had never heard of the, I hadn't heard of the Tuskegee study, but I hadn't heard of the Mississippi appendectomy.
I didn't.
I haven't heard of that. So I did want to share with you one more thing, and it's stated on the next page of 147, as the level of education increases, Black women with over 16 years of education suffer higher infant mortality rate. As the level of education increases, Black women with over 16 years of education suffer higher infant mortality rate. You know, so like I said, it's a lot of information.
What does she mean by that? Like,
your baby's going to die more because you're waiting longer to have children.
Right. So it's related to your age as opposed to your education level.
But I think the education plays a role due to stress. I think that's the connection, but I'm not sure because I don't understand why education will be a problem besides when you're studying.
That's what you should have asked.
Tanisha, right. I didn't get that far, Tanisha. Why didn't you say that?
Well, first of all, I thought we had more time. Originally, we thought 2 hours.
That part, I thought we had more time. She was like an hour. I was like, lady, you came on here for an hour. I should have read the clip notes to this book.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely dives deep, and she did a lot of research. You know what I mean? Like I said, when authors come on, they're taking their time out there, whatever got going on, you know what I mean, to even come on. So I embraced the time that we had, and you got to take it from there. You know what I mean? Next time, if she ever comes, then we'll go a little, you know what I'm saying? You just never know. But yeah, I think that's where the education part kind of stems on, is just the stress, because, you know, when you're studying, you're under pressure, you know, and that pressure and stress can, you know, anytime you have stress related issues, it's going to affect the baby that's inside of you, or infant, you know. It's just, it goes co-in hand, you know, it coexists. So yeah.
That's that Black woman superpower that we think we have. Where we strive for perfection. I don't care what it is. It's like, I gotta do better. I have to do better in order to do whatever. It's like, no matter what it is, we are going to strive to be the best at whatever we do. I don't know how to stop it, but that's what we do.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of study on Black women. You know, when you are stressed, it will show. You may not even know it, and the doctor may say, you need to stay off your feet, but you got to stop working or whatever. They tell, because they seeing things already. But if you don't get these warnings, and sometimes you don't even know that you're stressed out, because it's not like it shows, you know, like your hair start falling out or nothing like that.
It's not turning gray. Like,
yeah.
Gray.
That's fine. But I mean, when you're pregnant, it's definitely detrimental. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely have to be less stressful and do less things, because it will affect your baby. You know, when you're not pregnant, then you just gonna be affected with stress some other kind of way, you know, all kind of other ways. But yeah, having a baby, it already pulling a lot of nutrients and all kind of stuff from you. So stress and complication with pregnancy, and, you know, all kind of stuff. I don't want to dive deep into it because I have kids. So, but I did notice that part. I was like, oh wow, you know, yeah, it's crazy. But Yeah, she really definitely did her research on this. We did read a book similar to this. I don't know if you all noticed, but there was a girl in the book named Anika Henderson, and she was Tabitha's friend. I don't know, Michelle, if you want to call that the time we read it, but we did read her book, and it was a little more. It was kind of the same type of book. You remember?
A husband, wife type of, yeah, I read it.
Yeah. She mentioned her in the book, actually. Her name was Anika Henderson. Oh yeah. She mentioned her in the book. Yeah. We read it I think when the pandemic first happened. We were supposed to read it in March of 2020, but because the pandemic happened, we didn't discuss it until May of 2020. So yeah, and she was a professor as well. So a lot of times I noticed that's why I knew it was a small book. It was kind of thin, but once I opened up, I was like, oh yeah, we about to go deep, because professors, I mean, they've done years of research to come and publish this one book, years of it. So they trying to get everything that they have conjulated, all through the 7 years, or however long as they've been working on this one book. They trying to give you everything that they can and be very detailed, because like she said, she's trying to open people's eyes about singlehood. A lot of people are not aware of it. People, like she said, that they forget, oh, what is it like to be single? Your ass know what it's like to be single. You wasn't always married, okay? Don't act like it's a foreign language to you. Don't act like you ain't never heard of it. You know what it's like.
Or it's a disease.
One of the things that, like, I ask some of my married friends, they're always talking about how stressful it is. I hear my married friends a lot say, oh my God, enjoy your single life, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And then my question to them is, well, why are you still married? If it's so horrible, if it's so
we got a problem now. If you say that, we got a problem. The whole conversation gonna change. It's okay for them to say, girl, why you still single? You ain't found no man yet. I mean, I have people call me out the blue. Girl, you found anybody yet? I'm not even looking. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm over here, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. I'm busy, like, what I'm saying? I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I got goals, I got things going on. I got stuff I got to cross off my list. Like, I don't just be sitting up wondering, when it coming? When it coming? Right. I don't go out searching, and I'm not even waiting. I don't think about it.
No. Because I don't know why people equate marriage with happiness. Because again, when I talk to my friends, they like, it's so overrated. But if you're not married, it's like it's like a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's like a taboo that you're not married. But if you're married, nobody asks you if you're single. But as long as you're married, you obviously happy, right? Because you married. And then my married friends are like, girl, it's more than a notion.
But then they'll weaponize it against us. So whatever. The married people, men, they love to weaponize singlehood against us like it's something bad. I'm living my best life. What about you?
They know you are. They know we are. So they're like,
But if you think about it, that's why women nowadays have lowered their standard, because they do not want to be looked at as a single Black woman. Yep. Because it does have a negative effect on you. You know what I mean? Like, people look at you like something's wrong, or you looked at as you just, something has got to be wrong with you. So women nowadays, we don't even, like Michelle said, women, we want our standard men to be here. Oh no, the hell we don't. Baby, they going down. You ain't even gotta have a damn job no more.
A job, right? Just something. Just a man and a job. Like,
are you breathing? Oh, you breathing? Oh, come on over here. We can take
Let's stay at home and watch my kids. Stay at home and watch my kids. You ain't even gotta have no car. Just pick me up from work and drop me off from work. And you better be
baby, in my car, right? In my car.
You ain't even gotta have no job. You ain't gotta have nowhere to stay. Oh, baby, you can stay with me. Don't worry about it. They want an in-house person. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
And you ain't gotta come to the table with nothing. But
they want an in-house person for exterior view, like for everyone else to see.
So everybody knows you gotta.
That's it. Not for you, for everybody else to see. I got a man.
And so that's why men are not. That's why men are not. They ain't gotta do shit no more. They ain't gotta do nothing because it's all about the D. That's it. That's what it's all about.
And they ain't coming with that no more. They like, I don't know. They just, yeah.
All about. Like you can't function without it. Like you just can't do nothing else without it. That's why you ain't where you're supposed to be because of that. And some people have gotten that from their parents. Sometimes it's stuff that they've been raised to believe that, girl, you gotta have a man. If you got a mama or grandmama keep brainwashing you with that crap, girl, you ain't got you a man. You better leave. Well, mama, he done cheated. So what? So what? You probably
He just being a man. He just being a man. It's okay.
Thank you. It's okay. He just you keep nagging him, he gonna leave you for real. Then you're gonna be spoiled and ain't having no man at all. That ain't acceptable around here. You better go get that man. I mean,
even now, so I ain't gonna say it was back then, because I've had friends who the day before the marriage, they got a text, "Oh, I'm pregnant by your blah blah blah." You think that stopped them? They still want to be married. They still get married. So it's like, why? Why would you even, he's just gonna be doing whatever. Not only, it's one thing before, when they was cheating out, doing whatever happened. Now he can bring you a never-ending gift. You know what I'm saying? So now, I don't know.
Yeah, and if a table's turned, if you with a man and you got pregnant by another man, ask me if that man gonna stay with you.
Hell no, he gone.
What? Nah.
He don't want to hear nothing you talking about.
Right.
Don't call him. Don't ever talk to him ever again. He gone.
I'm not raising another man baby, but you expected to raise another woman's baby.
You supposed to take in all his damn kids. By all his babies.
Right there. Raise another woman's baby.
Like, what the hell?
I understand if it was prior to, but
right.
Our standards as women have definitely been lowered. Seriously. And the men know that.
But they know, but they also know who not to approach and who they can get away to. So
I think they'll try it.
But they still know not to approach
because women have allowed it. Some women are okay with it and allow things. So they'll try it to see how far you allow them to go.
For sure.
Yeah, because some of them, when even at my job, the young ladies, I'm going to call them young ladies, you should lose the word ladies, allow them to take them out to the parking lot and have sex with them. I'm like, really? That's all you go down to, is having sex with somebody in their car in the work parking lot and risk losing your job.
Oh, wow.
Risk losing your job, which is crazy to me, that you would equate to that. No, that ain't even happening. You can't even, no. But they all trying to compete with something that don't belong to them either, which is crazy to me too. They fighting over him. He going home to his wife and y'all still fighting over him at work, which is crazy to me. Just crazy.
Baby, stop that D. Stop that D, baby. Today.
It's crazy.
That's it. That's the common denominator. I'm telling you, you ain't gotta have no job, you ain't gotta have no link card, you ain't got to bring nothing to the table. And they always gonna go for the ones that got kids because they know you gotta have a roof over your damn head. And you gonna always have some food in your Definitely, okay? Always, but like I say, I don't know what happened from the time we was kings and queens and all that to my baby, our assets probably rolling over. What's the name? The one on the bus?
Rosa
Parks.
Martin Luther King, her man had a whole dream. Okay.
Oh,
Comedians saying, hell, your man ain't even got a plan. Okay. Martin Luther King had a dream. What your man got? You don't even know what he gonna do tomorrow. What we gonna eat tonight? I don't know. Whatever you want, baby.
And then you be like, I didn't see it come. I didn't know. Yeah, you did.
But like I say, if you all did not finish reading this book, please take the time to try to read it.
And the footnotes are really good. So
yeah. Yeah,
I
she
kind of
said,
enjoyed the footnotes more than I did the book, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. She said that I really enjoyed the book because it was really a lot of information. You know,
Mhm.
that's what I really liked about it. But I know you all definitely like a lot of audibles. Because this book is new, the audible is not out yet, but maybe you all maybe want to wait until that. And, that might be a little easier for you all because it's not a quick
She
read.
was debating because she didn't know how to include the footnotes in the audible books.
Right.
So she wanted to, because she felt, as she called it, her whatever did she call them, tantrums, whatever. When she went off into a little side note.
Her tangents, yeah, her tangents.
Yeah, but she didn't know how to include that in the thing. But to me, the footnotes were, not to say that the book wasn't interested in the footnotes, were really, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Or I just highlight and be like, that's interesting.
But the book that we read that she mentioned, the another author that we talked about, like I said, that she was close friends with Tabitha, one of our members. The book was called The Veil and Vow. VEIL and VOW, and Marriage Matters in Contemporary African American Culture by Professor Anika Henderson. We did read that back in March of 2020. So that one is a very deep book, but kind of on the same wavelength as this one as well. But she talked more about marriage and African American marriage, and she also had a little term she coined, like called marriageocracy. You know, she talked about that a lot too. But yeah, I just wanted to let you all know about that book, in case you all wanted to pick that up. But yeah, like I said, overall, it was a great discussion, as we always have one. I'm definitely, am honored that she even wanted to come on our platform and talk to us, by us being such a new book club and all. Like we are going in our 4th year, but like I said, she is the first one that actually wanted to. I friend her on Instagram, and she came back to me and said, hey, can I discuss my book with your club? And I was very honored, like, yes, definitely, when you want to do it,
You drove here?
So yeah, I am very happy about that. I also stated to you all, know Lasandra just got on. Hey, Lasandra girl, we missed you earlier today.
Sound
But
like I missed a good discussion. So sorry.
yeah, that's why I'm so glad that I recorded, so that when you do miss and need to go back, you can always put it on, go check it out on YouTube. So I'm happy that you do that. That helps us a lot, and expose us to other people, and they can find out about how we get down over here. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I stated to all, I'll reiterate again that October the 22nd, we will be having another author. Her name is Anita Kopacz, Kopacz. Her book is named Shallow Waters. She will be on with us in October, but by then we'll be back on Zoom anyway. But I just want to, put it in your calendar and let y'all know about that. Lasandra, since you just got on, did you read the book? Did you have anything you want to comment on?
I did not read the book. I watched the interview she did on YouTube with somebody about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just reading comments and stuff about the book.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully I'll let you all know when I do upload it, and we'll just go ahead and pick the book for June. Anybody else have anything to share while we're on the call? Anybody? Anything? No. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us today, and can't wait to see what we're gonna read next month. That's always a surprise for everybody. All right, so you all have a great week. Happy Memorial Day tomorrow. Y'all gonna be celebrating the day or tomorrow. Enjoy, stay safe out there, and make sure y'all
happy birthday to you, Tanisha. Happy birthday.
And
Birthday.
I'm gonna just stay at home and eat that food from yesterday, and chill out, have a glass of wine. That's about all I'm gonna do. I've been off.
Tanisha, really? I'm going to a barbecue. You want to come? It's out south though. Today. I got to get ready right now once we hang up this call.
Really?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, who barbecue is it?
I'm gonna text you, my friend Jason. I'm gonna text you right now.
Okay. Yeah, text me and let me know.
Okay.
Okay, see you all. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.